The Great Chamber of the Galactic Council was the largest room ever built by any species. It floated in the empty space between three star systems, a massive sphere of crystal and metal that could hold 10,000 beings at once. Today, representatives from 847 different alien species filled every seat. They had come to vote on the most important decision in 100 years. High Arbiter Velox stood at the center platform. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. His species, the Velox, had ruled the council for 3 centuries. They were proud, ancient, and very sure of their own importance. Velox looked around the chamber with his 6 black eyes and felt satisfied. Everything was going according to plan. "The vote is complete," he announced. His voice echoed through the chamber. 812 species have voted yes. 35 have voted no. The motion passes. A wave of clicking, humming, and growling filled the room. Different species showed approval in different ways. From this moment forward, Velox continued, "The species known as humanity is banned from all galactic trade. They are banned from all galactic travel. They are banned from all communication with council members. Any human ship found outside their home system will be destroyed. Any human colony will be surrounded and cut off. This is the law." In the far corner of the chamber, a single human woman stood alone. Her name was Una, and she was the human ambassador. She was 32 years old, with black hair cut short and calm dark eyes. She wore a simple gray uniform with no medals or decorations. Around her, thousands of aliens celebrated the destruction of her people's future. She did not move. She did not speak. She simply watched. The Hylian ambassador, a creature that looked like a floating jellyfish, drifted closer to the human section. "You see now," it said, its voice like bubbles underwater. "You see what happens to species that grow too fast? You should have stayed on your little planet." Una turned to look at the Hylian. "May I ask why?" she said quietly. "We have broken no laws. We have attacked no one. We have started no wars." "That is exactly the problem," Velox called out from the center platform. He had been listening. "You have done nothing wrong, and yet you spread across the galaxy like a disease. 17 colony worlds in only 200 years. Ships that move faster than any other species can build. Technology you refuse to share. You are dangerous because we cannot predict you. You are dangerous because you do not follow the rules of how species are supposed to grow." Una nodded slowly. "So we are being punished for being successful." "You are being contained," Velox corrected. "For the safety of all." The chamber rumbled with agreement. The Morvans, huge creatures with stone-like skin, stamped their feet. The Tellerons, small beings with too many eyes, clicked their approval. Species that had been enemies for thousands of years now stood, united against the humans. Una looked around the chamber one more time. She seemed to be memorizing every face, every species, every vote. Then she picked up her small data tablet and walked toward the exit. Ambassador Velox called after her. "You have 30 days to remove all human staff from this station. After that, any human found here will be arrested." Una stopped walking. She did not turn around. "Hi, Arbiter," she said, her voice still calm and quiet. "I understand the Council's decision. We will comply. Every human will leave, exactly as you have ordered," Velox said. "Then we have nothing more to discuss." "Just one small thing," Una said. She turned around now, and something in her eyes made several nearby aliens step backward. "I want you to remember this moment. Remember that we asked for peace. Remember that we offered friendship. Remember that you chose this." Velox's mandibles clicked with amusement. "Is that a threat? From a species with 17 worlds against our thousands?" "It is not a threat," Una said. "I do not make threats. I am simply asking you to remember. In a few weeks, when things begin to go wrong, I want you to think back to this moment. I want you to remember that we warned you." She smiled. It was a small smile, polite and professional, but something about it made Velox feel cold. "What do you mean when things go wrong?" he demanded. "I mean nothing, High Arbiter. I am sure the galaxy will be perfectly fine without us. After all, We are just a small species with 17 little colonies. What could we possibly matter? She bowed once, a gesture of respect that somehow felt like an insult. Then she walked out of the chamber. The great doors closed behind her with a sound like thunder. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the Helian ambassador laughed. A wet, bubbling sound. "Humans," it said, always so dramatic. "They think they are important. They will learn." Velix nodded, but he could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. He thought about the human woman's eyes. There had been no fear in them, no anger, no desperation. She had looked at the assembled might of 847 species and felt nothing but calm certainty. That night, Velix could not sleep. He kept thinking about what she had said. When things begin to go wrong, what did that mean? Humans had no great military. They had no ancient alliances. They had nothing but their 17 small colonies and their strange, fast ships. He told himself he was being foolish. The Council had made the right decision. Humanity was contained. The galaxy was safe, but somewhere deep in his mind, a small voice whispered a question he could not answer. If humans were so weak and unimportant, why had 812 species voted to ban them? What were they really afraid of? Velix pushed the thought away and tried to sleep. In 3 weeks, he would understand. In 3 weeks, he would realize that the Council had not banned humanity to protect the galaxy from humans. They had banned humanity because they did not understand what humanity had already become, and by then, it would be far too late. 3 weeks after the vote, Defense Minister Gora ran through the halls of the Velix government building. His gray skin had turned pale, almost white. His forehands were shaking so badly he could barely hold his data tablet. He had served the Velix hegemony for 40 years. He had fought in 3 wars. He had never been this afraid. He burst into High Arbiter Velix's private office without knocking. Velix looked up from his meal, annoyed. "Minister Gora, what is the meaning of this?" "I am eating. Forgive me, High Arbiter." Gora's voice was barely a whisper. "But you need to see this. Right now. Before anyone else finds out." Something in Gora's face made Velix put down his food. He had known Gora for decades. He had never seen the old warrior look so broken. "Show me," Velix said. Gora activated his data tablet. A holographic map of the galaxy appeared above the desk. At first, it looked normal. Stars and planets and trade routes, all the familiar patterns of galactic civilization. "After the ban, I ordered my staff to trace all human activities," Gora explained. "We wanted to make sure they were actually leaving. We wanted to track their ships, their colonies, their people." Velix asked, "And we found them." Gora touched the tablet. Red dots began appearing on the map. A few at first, then dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. They spread across the galaxy like blood spreading through water. "We found all of them." Velix stared at the map. Red dots covered everything. The inner worlds, the outer territories, the trade lanes, the military zones. There was no part of the galaxy that did not have red. "This is impossible," Velix breathed. "They only have 17 colonies." "They have 17 military colonies," Gora corrected. 17 places with human flags and human governments and human defenses. But they have 437 civilian installations, research stations, medical facilities, trading posts, agricultural centers, manufacturing plants, all of them registered under other species names, all of them hidden in plain sight. Velix felt his secondary heart begin to fail. How? We monitor everything. We have spies in every sector. How did we miss this? "Because we were looking for enemies," Gora said bitterly. "We were looking for warships and weapons and military bases. We were not looking for doctors and teachers and engineers. We were not looking for people who wanted to help." Touch the tablet again. The red dots began connecting with lines, showing trade routes and supply chains. "Do you see these lines, High Arbiter? They connect human facilities to galactic infrastructure, and not just small parts. Critical parts. The grain shipments that feed 60% of the inner worlds, human logistics companies manage the distribution. They do not own the grain. They just make sure it gets where it needs to go. Belloc said nothing. He could not speak. The quantum processors in our military targeting systems, human engineers designed them. They licensed the technology through a Teleron company, but the original work was human. If those processors stop working, our Wetbu NS become useless. Gora zoomed the map to a cluster of medical stations near the Hellion homeworld. The medicine that cured the Hellion plague 20 years ago. Human biochemists created it. They worked in Teleron labs, used Morvan funding, and published under Hellion names. But the actual scientists were human. Every single one. Stop, Velix whispered. Please, stop. But Gora could not stop. The truth was pouring out of him like poison from a wound. The communication relays that connect the entire galaxy. Human maintenance crews keep them running. The translation software that lets different species understand each other. Human linguists wrote the base code. The emergency response systems that coordinate disaster relief. Human designers built the protocols. He turned off the map. The room felt darker without its glow. Hi, Arbiter. I've spent my entire career preparing for war. I have studied every possible enemy. I have planned for invasions, for betrayals, for every kind of attack. But I never prepared for this. I never imagined that a species could conquer a galaxy without firing a single shot. Belloc finally found his voice. They have not conquered us. They have just made themselves useful. That is not the same thing. Gora laughed. It was not a happy sound, is it not? Hi, Arbiter. We just told the humans to leave. We banned them from trade, from travel, from communication. We ordered them to abandon everything they have built. And they said yes. They agreed. They are packing their bags right now, ready to go home. Then the problem is solved, Velix said desperately. The problem is not solved. The problem is just beginning. Gora leaned forward. What happens when they actually leave? What happens when the grain shipments stop arriving on time? What happens when the medical facilities close? What happens when the communication relays break down and no one knows how to fix them? Velix opened his mouth to answer, but no words came out. They are not our enemies, High Arbiter. They never were. They made themselves into something much more dangerous than an enemy. They made themselves necessary. They made themselves the foundation that holds everything together. Gora stood up straight. He looked old now, older than Velix had ever seen him. We just told them to leave. We just told the foundation to remove itself. So now, we must ask ourselves a very simple question. He walked to the door, then stopped and looked back. What happens to a building when you remove the foundation? He left without waiting for an answer. Velix sat alone in his office for a long time. Outside, the sun was setting. The sky turned red, then purple, then black. And somewhere in the darkness, human ships were beginning to move. Not toward the galaxy, away from it. Exactly as they had been told. The food riots on Morva 7 started on a Tuesday. It began simply enough. A shipment of grain did not arrive. Then another shipment did not arrive. Then the warehouses began to empty, and the people began to panic. Within 3 days, the streets were filled with hungry citizens demanding answers. Captain Taiho watched the news feeds from the bridge of his ship, the quiet persistence. He was a tall man with tired eyes and gray hair at his temples. He had been a merchant captain for 20 years, moving food and supplies across the galaxy. His ship was officially registered to a Corvin trading company, but everyone on board was human. It is getting worse, his first officer said. Her name was Bora, a young woman with sharp eyes and quick hands. She had been with Taiho for 5 years. The Morvan government is trying to distribute emergency rations, but they do not know how. They have never had to do it themselves. Taiho nodded slowly. Our logistics teams handled all their distribution for the last 50 years. We designed the systems. We trained the workers. We maintained the software. Now we are gone, and they do not understand how anything works. Bora moved to stand beside him. Through the window, they could see the planet below. Even from space, they could see the fires burning in the cities. We could help, Bora said quietly. We could go back. We could show them how to fix the systems. No, Taiho's voice was firm but not angry. Earth's orders are clear. We comply with the ban. We do not help. We do not interfere. We simply leave. But people are dying down there, I know. Taiho closed his eyes. I know they are dying. And it hurts me more than you can imagine. But we did not start this. We did not ask for this. They voted to remove us, and now they must live with that choice. The newsfeed showed Velik's soldiers trying to operate farming equipment. They did not know how. The machines had been designed by humans, maintained by humans, programmed by humans. Without human workers, they were just expensive pieces of metal. On another channel, Hellion doctors were struggling to produce medicine. The formulas were human. The equipment was human-designed. The supply chains that brought raw materials had been human-managed. Now everything was falling apart. How long can they survive? Bora asked. The economists on Earth made predictions, Taiho said. They say most worlds have about 6 months of reserves. After that, things will become very bad. Some planets might last longer. Some might collapse sooner. It depends on how much they relied on us. He pulled up a different screen, showing data from across the galaxy. The Talorans are already in trouble. They depended on human teachers for their technical schools. Now they have no one to train the next generation of engineers. The Helians cannot produce enough medicine. Their factories were designed by humans, and no one else knows how to operate them at full capacity. The Morvans have food, but they cannot move it. Their entire transportation network was coordinated by human logistics experts. Bora sat down heavily. We really were everywhere, were we not? Yes. Taiho turned off the screens. He could not watch anymore. 200 years ago, when we first made contact with the galaxy, we were nothing. A small, violent species on a dying planet. The other species looked at us and saw primitives. They saw animals. They did not want us as equals. They did not want us as partners. They only wanted us to go away. He walked to the window and stared out at the stars. So our leaders made a decision. If the galaxy would not accept us as equals, we would make ourselves necessary. We would not conquer. We would not fight. We would simply become so useful that no one could function without us. And it worked, Bora said. It worked too well. Taiho's voice was sad. We became the doctors who cured their plagues, the engineers who built their machines, the teachers who educated their children, the logistics experts who fed their planets. We did not do it to control them. We did it to survive. But the result is the same. He turned back to face Bora. The galaxy cannot function without humanity. Not because we are stronger, not because we are smarter, but because we spent 2 centuries making ourselves essential. We became the glue that holds everything together. And now they have told us to leave. The news feeds showed more riots, more fires, more chaos. On a dozen worlds, governments were beginning to collapse. On 100 more, panic was spreading. What happens now? Bora asked. Now we wait, Taiho said. We wait for them to understand what they have done. We wait for them to realize that banning humanity was not a solution. It was a death sentence for their entire civilization. He sat down in his captain's chair and closed his eyes. And when they come to us asking for help, when they finally understand that they need us, then we will have a choice to make. Do we help them? Do we forgive them? Or do we let them suffer the consequences of their fear? Bora was quiet for a long moment. What do you think we should do? She finally asked. Taiho opened his eyes. Despite everything, there was something soft in his expression. Something human. I think we should help them, he said quietly. Because that is what we have always done. That is who we are. We help. We build. We heal. We teach. That is our strength. That is why they feared us. And that is why, in the end, we will win. He looked out at the stars one more time, not through war, not through revenge, but through being exactly what we have always been, the species that makes things better, outside The galaxy was falling apart. But somewhere in the distance, human ships were gathering, waiting, ready to rebuild everything that was about to break. High Arbiter Velix had not slept in 11 days. The emergency council session had been going on for hours. Representatives from hundreds of species screamed at each other across the great chamber. Some blamed the humans. Some blamed Velix. Some blamed each other. No one had any solutions. We were running out of food. The Morven ambassador bellowed. His stone-like skin was cracked from stress. Our distribution systems have completely failed. 20 million citizens are starving? Your problems are nothing. The Helian ambassador shrieked back. Our hospitals have stopped functioning. The Velix plague has returned because we cannot produce the cure. Billions will die. Order. Velix tried to shout, but his voice was weak. He was old and tired and broken. The confident leader who had banned humanity was gone. In his place stood a frightened fool who had destroyed everything he had tried to protect. The chamber doors opened. Everyone stopped arguing. Everyone turned to look. And everyone felt their blood turn cold. Ambassador Yuna walked into the chamber. She wore the same simple gray uniform. She had the same calm dark eyes. She moved through the crowd of aliens like water flowing through stones, smooth and unstoppable. How did you get in here? Velox demanded. This station is off limits to humans. Our security systems, your security systems, were designed by human engineers, Yuna interrupted calmly. They recognized my access codes. She walked to the center platform and stood before the assembled species. Thousands of aliens who had voted to destroy her people looked down at her. She did not seem afraid. She did not seem angry. She simply seemed patient. I am here to deliver a message from Earth, she said. Her voice was quiet, but somehow it filled the entire chamber. After that, I will answer 3 questions. Then I will leave. Please listen carefully. No one spoke. No one moved. The chamber was silent as death. The government has watched your struggles over the past weeks with great sadness, Yuna began. We did not want this. We never wanted this. For 200 years, we worked beside you. We healed your sick. We fed your hungry. We taught your children. We asked for nothing in return, except the chance to exist. She paused, looking around the chamber. You gave us that chance at first. You let us serve. You let us help. And then, when you realized how much you needed us, you became afraid. You called emergency sessions. You made secret plans. You decided that humanity was too useful, too embedded, too necessary. You decided that made us dangerous? Her voice grew harder. So you voted to remove us? 812 species agreed that humanity should be banned, contained, destroyed. And when I warned you that this would end badly, you laughed. You thought we were nothing? 17 little colonies against your mighty empire. She smiled that same cold smile from before. Now you know the truth. Those 17 colonies were just the beginning. We are everywhere. We are in your hospitals and your schools. We are in your factories and your farms. We are in your communication systems and your transportation networks. We did not plan to control you. We planned to help you. But the result is the same. The Hylian ambassador floated forward. What do you want? It asked desperately. Name your price. We will give you anything. I am glad you asked. Yuna pulled out her data tablet. My government has prepared a list of terms. They are not negotiable. She projected the document into the air above her head. First, humanity will receive full membership in the Galactic Council. We will have voting rights equal to our contribution, not our military strength. This means we will have more votes than any other species. Gasps and protests filled the chamber. Second, every human citizen who was harmed by the ban will receive compensation. Every business that was destroyed will be rebuilt. Every colony that was threatened will be protected. It will cost trillions. The Morven ambassador shouted. Yes, Yuna agreed. Well, perhaps you should have considered that before voting to destroy us. She continued reading. Third, High Arbiter Velox will deliver a public apology. He will admit that the ban was motivated by fear and prejudice, not by any crime humanity committed. This apology will be broadcast to every world in the galaxy. Velox's face went pale. You want me to humiliate myself before the entire galaxy? I want you to tell the truth, Una corrected. You banned us because you were afraid. Not because we did anything wrong. The galaxy deserves to know that. She turned off the projection. These are our terms. Accept them, and we will return immediately. Our doctors will go back to your hospitals. Our engineers will fix your machines. Our logistics experts will restart your supply chains. Within 6 months, everything will return to normal. And if we refuse, Velox asked. Una's expression did not change. Then we will respect your decision. We will not attack you. We will not sabotage you. We will simply leave exactly as you ordered, and your civilization will collapse within 2 years. You cannot know that, someone shouted. I can, Una replied. Our economists have run the simulations 1,000 times. Without human infrastructure support, galactic civilization cannot sustain itself. Too many critical systems depend on us. Remove us, and everything falls apart. She started walking toward the exit. You have 1 week to decide. After that, our ships will leave for human space, and we will not return. This is not a threat. This is simply the consequence of your own choices. She stopped at the door and looked back one more time. We never wanted to be your enemies. We only ever wanted to be your partners. You could have had our friendship. Instead, you chose our absence. Her eyes met Velox's across the chamber. I hope you choose more wisely this time. The doors closed behind her. The chamber remained silent for a very long time. Then slowly, every head turned to look at High Arbiter Velox. He knew what he had to do. He had known since the moment Una walked through the door. He had been a fool, and now he would pay the price of his foolishness. Call an emergency vote, he said quietly. We accept the human terms. It was not a victory for the Council. It was not a defeat for humanity. It was simply the truth finally acknowledged. The galaxy needed humanity. It had always needed humanity, and now at last, it would admit it. 1 year after the ban was lifted, the galaxy had changed forever. President Junho stood on the observation deck of New Sol Station, the largest human space station ever built. Through the massive windows, he could see hundreds of ships moving through the darkness. Cargo vessels, passenger transports, medical ships, construction platforms. They came from every corner of the galaxy, and they all had one thing in common. They were coming to learn from humanity. The Teleron delegation has arrived, his assistant said. Her name was Hannah, a small woman with silver-streaked hair and sharp intelligence behind her glasses. She had served 3 presidents before Junho. She would probably serve 3 more after him. They want to establish a cultural exchange program. Junho smiled slightly. The Telerons. They were one of the first species to vote for the ban. I remember reading the transcript. Their ambassador called us dangerous parasites, yes, sir. And now they want us to teach their children. Strange how things change. Junho turned away from the window. His office was simple, almost plain. A wooden desk that his grandfather had made by hand. A few photographs of his family. A small plant that he watered every morning. Nothing fancy. Nothing impressive. That was how humans did things. Let them in, he said. The Teleron ambassador was nervous. Junho could tell by the way its many eyes kept blinking in different patterns. Telerons were small creatures, barely reaching Junho's waist. They had survived for millennia by being clever and quick. But cleverness had not prepared them for what humanity had done. President Junho, the ambassador said, bowing deeply, thank you for meeting with us. We know that our species was not kind to yours in the past. You voted to destroy us, Junho said calmly. You called us parasites and demanded our extinction. Your representatives celebrated when the ban passed. The ambassador's eyes blinked faster. Yes, we did. And we were wrong. We understand that now. Junho studied the small creature for a long moment. It would be easy to punish them. It would be easy to hold grudges, to demand revenge, to make them suffer as they had tried to make humanity suffer. Many humans wanted exactly that, but that was not the human way. Not anymore. Sit down, Junho said gently. Tell me about your cultural exchange program. Relief flooded the ambassador's face. They talked for 2 hours about schools and teachers, about students and scholarships, about building connections between species that had once been enemies. By the end, the ambassador was almost smiling. President Junho, it said, as it prepared to leave, may I ask you a question? Of course, why did you help us? After everything we did, after how we treated your people, why did you come back? Why did you save us when you could have watched us fall? Gunho was quiet for a moment. He thought about his grandfather, who had lived through the First Contact War. He thought about his mother, who had spent her life building hospitals on alien worlds. He thought about his children, who had friends from a dozen different species. 200 years ago, he said slowly, humanity was a small, frightened species on a dying planet. We had just discovered that we were not alone in the universe, and the universe did not want us. Every other species was stronger, older, more advanced. They looked at us and saw nothing worth saving. He stood and walked to the window again. We had a choice then. We could fight back with weapons. We could try to conquer our way to respect. Many species have done that throughout history. It never works. Violence only creates more violence. War only creates more war. Turned to face the ambassador. So we chose a different path. We decided to make ourselves necessary. We became doctors and teachers and engineers. We built things that helped people. We solved problems that no one else could solve. We made ourselves so useful that removing us would hurt more than keeping us. And it worked, the ambassador said quietly. Yes, but not in the way we expected. Junho sat down at his desk again. We thought we were just surviving. We thought we were just protecting ourselves. But somewhere along the way, we became something more. We became the species that helps, the species that heals, the species that builds bridges instead of walls. He smiled, and there was real warmth in it. You ask why we came back to help you? The answer is simple. Because that is who we are. Not because you deserved it. Not because you earned it. But because helping others is what humanity does. It is our nature now. It is our purpose. The ambassador bowed again, lower than before. Then humanity is not just a species, it said. Humanity is an ideal, perhaps Junho said. Or perhaps we are just stubborn. We refuse to become the monsters that others expected us to be. After the ambassador left, Hannah came back into the office. That was quite a speech, sir. It's not a speech. It was the truth. Hannah sat down across from him. The council has sent their final integration report. Human representatives now serve on over 500 galactic committees. Our doctors work in hospitals on every major world. Our teachers are training the next generation of galactic citizens. Our engineers are rebuilding infrastructure that collapsed during the crisis. It's good, Junho said. That is, as it should be. There is one more thing. Hannah paused. High Arbiter Velox has requested a meeting. He wants to apologize personally, not a public statement. A private apology, just between you and him. Junho considered this for a long moment. Velox had been the architect of the ban. He had led the vote to destroy humanity. He had celebrated their coming extinction, but he had also been the one to accept the terms. He had been the one to admit his mistake publicly. He had been the one to begin the process of healing. Tell him yes, Junho said finally. Tell him I would be honored to meet with him. Hannah raised an eyebrow. You would honor the man who tried to destroy us. I would honor the man who admitted he was wrong. Junho leaned back in his chair. That takes courage. Perhaps more courage than banning us did. He does not need my forgiveness to survive. He is asking for it because he wants to be better. How can I refuse that? Outside the window, the galaxy continued to turn. Ships moved between stars. Civilizations grew and changed and evolved. And at the center of it all, humanity remained. Not as conquerors, not as rulers, not as masters, but as the species that made things better. The species that helped. The species that, when given every reason to hate, chose instead to heal. The Council had banned humanity because they feared what humans might become. They never imagined what humanity had already chosen to be, and that, in the end, was humanity's greatest victory. Not the power they held, not the systems they controlled, but the simple, stubborn refusal to become the enemy that others expected. The galaxy had tried to remove humanity. Humanity had responded by saving the galaxy instead. That was the human way. That was always the human way, and it always would be.